There was shouting coming from your house. I had been out of town for 2 weeks. Only my parents had the keys. I did not yell. I installed hidden cameras. The next time I left, I viewed the film and my jaw fell. Police were called in around 30 minutes later. What you should know is that every Tuesday I lock my house as if I were expecting a home invasion. Deadbolt twin-cylinder keypad lock the works. It is not paranoia. I travel a lot for work. I'm a consultant, one of those vaguely high-stress, high-billable hour jobs where I spend half my life solving other people's problems, and the other half pretending it's okay that I come home to an empty house with leftovers from the previous week and an unopened electric bill stuck to the fridge with a magnet that says, "Live, laugh, love" in fake cursive. The irony is not lost on me. Anyway, I returned last Sunday from 2 weeks in Denver. Back-to-back client meetings, 3 days of cold airport lunches, and one hotel room with an obvious bloodstain under the armchair. I just wanted to take a shower, eat a frozen burrito, and not speak to anyone else until Wednesday. Instead, I received Mark. Mark is my neighbor, mid-40s, defiantly balding, wearing socks and sandals, and mowing his lawn as if it were a tournament he'd been training for his entire life. He's also unusually kind, which is suspect on its own. I just stepped out to get groceries and barely locked the door behind me. He stood in his driveway looking at me as if I were an alien that had landed slightly off course. "Hello," he said. I nodded. "Hey." Then he gave me this look, part worried, half bracing. "Is everything fine at your place?" I blinked. Yes, why he massaged the back of his neck. "We've been hearing some noises from your residence at night." What kind of stuff? He paused and screamed. I stared at him. Sorry, but what he was yelling and appeared to be dead serious. A couple nights ago and before that. It was noisy. My wife believed someone had been wounded. We nearly phoned the cops. I laughed. Because what else do you do when someone claims to have heard screaming from your house? That's not conceivable, I said. I've been out of town for 2 weeks. The house was unoccupied. Mark simply gazed at me. Then he nodded slowly as if he were amusing me. If you say so. I shrugged. I do. Right. He took a step back toward his garage. Just keep it down next time, okay? And that was all. He turned and left me standing on my own freaking sidewalk, clutching my keys and trying to grasp the fact that my house had obviously been screaming while I was away. Not a big deal. I stepped back inside and locked the door behind me, hoping it would help. The home was peaceful. Tidy, perhaps a little too tidy. I spotted it when I walked past the hallway. The mirror was cleaner than I remembered, and my floor had never sparkled. I don't gleam anything. I Swiffer them like a normal grown-up with no time for perfection. Then upstairs I noticed it, my bed. Made. Not merely put together, hotel made. Corners tucked military-tight cushions, fluffed blanket put down at the right angle as if someone had watched too many cleaning reels and decided to transform my bedroom into a Pinterest board. That was when the dread set in. Not fear, precisely. Just a calm, growing awareness that something was wrong, and I knew who did it. So I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring, which sounded cheery but also suspicious. "Hello, dear. How was your trip?" "Fine," I replied. "A quick question. Were you in my place?" "Oh, I dropped by and watered the plants. You should have provided clearer directions for the orchids, by the way." I had to improvise. "And have you made my bed?" She laughed. "Well, someone had to. You left a mess." I breathed slowly. "Mom, I've told you before." "Oh, come on. I didn't touch anything else but the bed." And I vacuumed, wiped off the counters, and reorganized the spice drawer. "Lisa, you had 3 containers of paprika." I closed my eyes. "You did not bring anyone, correct?" I asked. "Of course not. Why would I bring someone? Do not be silly." I did not argue. Not because I trusted her, but because I lacked the energy to decipher a lie on top of a cinnamon murder scene with shuffled bedding. She hung up after a few minutes of unsolicited cleaning advice and a final reminder that I should really start dating more because I'm not getting any younger and there's nothing wrong with engineers. I sat on the side of the immaculate bed, staring at the impossibly clean floor, and felt the edges of my calm fray. Later in the day, I went back outside. I didn't want to, but I needed to. Mark was back in his garage pushing boxes around like if he were building a fortress. I approached gently as if trying not to shock a nervous animal. "Hello," I said. He cast a peek over. "Hi." I rubbed my hands together. "Can I inquire what you heard from my house?" He paused. "I'm not accusing anyone," I added. "I just wasn't present. So I am attempting to figure out what happened." Mark looked beyond me to my house and then back at me. He mentioned that individuals were coming and going and they were all different. I did not recognize them. When a couple nights ago, about midnight and the previous night as well. I swallowed. What about the screams? He scratched his beard. It was not yelling or fighting. It seemed like someone was in anguish. That's not typical. It wasn't fun. I did not say anything. He further said that this is not the first time. I didn't mention anything previously, but this happened back in March. Not as awful, but comparable. There was one night around the 10th. Loud noises, people coming and going. And again in early June. I recall because it was the night before my daughter's Kevin CE recital. I nodded slowly, despite the fact that I felt unsteady. "Look," he whispered softly, "I'm not trying to stir trouble, but whatever's going on over there isn't insignificant." I went back inside, locked the door again, and took out my planner. On March 10th, I was in Atlanta. On June 2nd, I was in Denver. My mother had said she watered the plants. There's nothing more. But there were people in my house yelling. And I, hundreds of miles away, assumed the house was empty. I was not living alone. I was the only one paying rent. I did not Thomas P. that night. I didn't check the locks. I didn't even brush my teeth. I just laid in bed, the same bed that someone else had made for me, trying not to think about things I couldn't unsee. The screams, the strangers, the pattern, March and June. Every time I left, something happened in my home. And the worst part, I had no notion what. Not really. People come and go. Music, screaming. My bed was made incorrectly. My floor is too clean. It seemed as if someone had stripped away the veneer of my existence and painted something new underneath. Something I was not supposed to notice. But I'd noticed. And now I couldn't unsee it. If you want to know how it all started, you must first comprehend my family. And by family, I mainly mean my parents' sister and myself. One of these items is unlike the others. My parents used to be hippies. Not the cute kind who makes their own soap and goes to farmers' markets. I mean authentic hippies, drum circles, herbal tea using questionable plants, group treatment in somebody's garage. My mother used to wear a batik shawl and discuss energy shifts until she became pregnant with me and traded the shawl for a job at a shipping company in a 2-bedroom apartment in the suburbs. They never quite forgave me for that, by the way. They had to accept responsibility because they were the cause. Growing up, there were always hints of their past floating around. Books on Tantra are buried beneath mountains of unpaid water bills, incense holders next to tax papers. Nobody was allowed to utilize the guest room's dream catcher above the bed. There is also the philosophy to consider. They strongly believed in sharing, which sounds good, until you grasp what it means in practice. I was born first. I am 2 years older than my sister. So, unsurprisingly, I got the larger room. That was my first error. Because when my sister turned 5 and chose to transform her bedroom into a Kevin Singh studio for 3 weeks, my parents told me I didn't need all that space. I was not even using it. Wouldn't it be better, more equitable if she had access to both rooms that became a pattern? Share books. Toys, share them. My bike, well, she should learn to ride, doesn't she? And if I didn't want to share it, just meant I was selfish, controlling, unspiritual. Someone who had not yet overcome their capitalist devotion to material stuff. Yes, that is an actual quote from my father. I was 8. The sharing was always unidirectional. She never had to give up anything. Not her toys, not her privacy, and not her closet. I was the stronger one, the generous one, the person who has already had enough. So I learned to let go. In fairness. Of space. Of expecting anything to truly belong to me. Until I grew older. And I became tired of it. I worked during college, graduated early. I landed a well-paying IT consulting job at the age of 11 and 2 years. At the age of 29, I bought my own place. Not a mansion, but solid. 3 bedrooms, a small yard, good light. The kind of place that seemed like breathing space after a lifetime of being urged to move aside. My parents despised it. My mother once observed, "You don't even have a family," as if that were a moral failure. "What do you need all of this space for?" I did not respond. My sister had 2 children by then. I was married to a guy who wore cartoon-faced socks and addressed everyone as bro. They had a modest home in the next town over, a fixer-upper. They never actually repaired. Every time my parents visited, they returned with new ammunition. Your sister is drowning in bills. The kids require space to play. It's not fair that you have everything when she's struggling. At first, I offered anything I could. I babysat. I paid for the weekend trip. I once helped replace a broken washing machine. But that wasn't enough, because what they wanted and what they eventually said out loud was that I reduce, sell my home, move somewhere smaller, give the difference to my sister. You're barely home, my father murmured. Why waste it? I said no, calmly, firmly. Without any guilt, they didn't take it well. For a while, they stopped speaking to me, unless it was in group conversations or awkward family dinners. Then my mother started thawing. One day, she called unexpectedly and said, I've been thinking about your orchids. I would be pleased to water them while you are away. That's how it began, just watering the plants. Then it was. I observed that the rug needed vacuuming, so I did it. I hope that's okay. Then you really should tidy your entryway. I cleaned up a little while I was there. Then I needed to redo your bed. You're folding the top sheet incorrectly. You're not at a hotel. It became weirder. When I got home, I found the spice rack reorganized alphabetically. And not in English. She used Latin. Another time, the kitchen table was scrubbed clean and replaced with placemats I didn't have. I gently asked her to stop. She informed me that it was her new interest. I've been watching cleaning instructions, she explained. That explains why my laundry was folded into swans and my socks were organized by chakra. I did not push it. Because, and I hate to admit it, a part of me was just relieved she was speaking to me again, that I had not been completely cut off for refusing to go bankrupt in the interest of sibling equality. But the time frame continued to concern me. Her housekeeping obsession began at the same time my sister moved to a larger home, one with a backyard, a walk-in closet, and a mortgage she certainly couldn't pay on her own. I remember casually asking how they did it. My sister just smiled. We had aid, from whom she didn't speak. And I didn't ask, because a part of me knew that if I scratched too hard on the surface, I'd discover something decaying beneath, something I would be unable to ignore. I just didn't realize how horrible it was yet. Not then. Not yet. I did not want to be the type of person who installs hidden cameras in her own home. I wanted to be normal, boring, even the kind of woman who replies, "Thanks, Mom," when her mother offers to water the plants and doesn't worry whether that's code for something else. The type of lady who shuts her door and assumes that when she returns, the bed will still be made as she left it. But after Mark told me about the shouting the strangers and the way he looked at me as if I was lying when I said the home was empty, I couldn't be that woman anymore. So I made a decision. My next work travel was already scheduled. Boise. 3 days. A full rollout meeting with an international team. I would be gone. The house would be empty. And my mother, who already knew my itinerary, would undoubtedly find an excuse to visit. Before I went, I set up 5 cameras. Living room, kitchen hall, entryway, and bedroom. All of them are little. The cloud is connected. Audio is enabled, tucked neatly behind bookshelves above cabinets and behind plants. Perfectly legal. Perfectly required. I wasn't sure what I'd find, but I knew I was finished guessing. I texted my mom the night before my flight. Hey, I'm off to Boise tomorrow. Thank you for watering the plants. However, please do not do anything else while I am gone. There is no cleaning. There is no reorganization. Just plants. She answered, I will try not to clean. You understand how I am? Safe travels. This is the type of content that would appear benign to any other individual. From her perspective, it felt like a trap. The first night, nothing happened. She arrived at midday, watered the plants, adjusted a framed photo, and wiped something on the counter that didn't require wiping. Annoying, familiar. No screams. There are no guests. Just the usual parental mess disguised as assistants. I watched it all evening from my hotel room. Laptop is open. Headphones are in. Anxiety sat in the back of my throat like a swallowed pebble. It was quiet. I didn't relax. The second night, I opened the feed around 8 p.m. Initially, everything was still. Dim the lighting. There's no movement. Then the front door opened and someone entered. Not my mama. Broad-shouldered with a duffel bag slung over one arm. He moved around the living room as if he'd done it before, without hesitation. No pause. 2 minutes later, another person entered, then another. A woman with a long silver braid holds a wine bottle. Another woman wore boots and a crimson shawl. A man carrying a folding chair. No one knocked. Nobody spoke loudly. Everyone moved as if they belonged. I stared at the screen. I did not blink. Then my phone rang. "Hello! Where are you?" "Our call with the India team began a few minutes ago." Crap. I had entirely forgotten due to the time change. It was morning for them. Just another Tuesday. For me, it was the start of something I couldn't describe. I closed the feed, grabbed my work laptop, and joined Zoom. I am not going to pretend to remember what the meeting was about. Imagine this. You've just watched strangers enter your residence. Not your neighbor. Not a friend. Strangers. With bags, wine, and folding seats. Then, image-switching windows and pretending to be concerned about business data. Synchronizing as someone named Arjun leads you through a slide deck that you don't understand on a regular day. I nodded, smiled. I probably agreed to things that I will later regret. Inside, I was spiraling. Outside, I was silenced. The meeting lasted 30 minutes. It felt like 10 hours. As soon as everything was over, I opened the camera stream again. I wish I had not. The living room was filled. People were spread out across the furniture as if it were theirs. The lights darkened. Music playing, something gentle and rhythmic. There was laughter. Someone lighted a candle. I noticed a man wearing nothing but boxer underwear lounging on my sofa. A woman sits cross-legged on the rug, opening a little black case. A few of definitely adult objects were spread on my coffee table. Something manufactured from leather. Something sparkling. Something moved. Someone other stepped barefoot across the corridor, clutching what appeared to be a blindfold. She giggled as she walked by the bookshelves. The bookshelf where I'd hidden the camera. She stared at it, not into it. It's not far away, but I still felt cold. This is my residence. This is my sofa. This is my table. I eat lunch there. I placed coffee mugs there. And now this. I closed the laptop quickly, like if it were hot. As if it could burn me. I was still looking at the ceiling when my phone rang again. Unknown number. I responded anyhow. "Hello, is this Julia Kessler? Yes? This is Officer Brennan from Maple Glen PD. We are responding to a report of a gathering at your home tonight. Do you know if somebody is currently using the property I swallowed?" "No, I am in Boise." "I'm not home. We've had multiple people on site express concern after discovering surveillance cameras inside the house. Some were not aware they were being videotaped. Your parents are now present and claim they have authorization to use the facility. They did not. You are identified as the homeowner, correct? Yes. Can you confirm whether anyone has been granted permission to throw an event at the house?" "No, I told my mother she may water the plants. I sent her a message. That is it." "Do you still have the message?" "Yes, I can send it." "Okay, you may be called for a formal statement. You are not currently in legal jeopardy, but you should be aware that zoning or licensing issues are being reviewed." "Okay, let's follow up." He hung up. I did not. I just sat there, still looking at the screen. I'm still trying to process the reality that I didn't imagine it. I'm still trying to unsee all I've seen, and I know I'll never be able to. My phone rang again around 15 minutes after the police conversation finished. This time it was my mother. I almost didn't respond. I gazed at the screen as if it was going to bite me. However, curiosity is louder than fear. And I hadn't heard her voice since I witnessed folks stripping down in my living room and arranging bondage gear on my coffee table. So I picked up. "Hey, sweetheart. Listen, just tell the police you know okay." That was her initial line. "Not sure, are you okay? Or perhaps this isn't what it looked like. Not even a please don't be mad. Just tell them you knew." I blinked. "What, that you granted us permission? We could use the house. It was only a little gathering like the old days." "The old days, community events. People we can trust. It wasn't Kevin Girouse." "Just tell them it was okay. Please." I stood up and approached the window of my motel room. I could see a parking lot. A minivan was parked sideways over 2 spaces. A lady attempts to remove her toddler from her own scarf. Everything appeared normal. So horribly normal. "Mom," I asked, "what were you doing in my house?" Silence. "I saw people," I explained. "I observed what was on my rug table and sofa. What the hell was that we can explain?" "Just not now. No. What were you doing? It was not illegal." We did not harm anyone. It was private. And someone overreacted and phoned the cops because they discovered a camera. Yes, I installed a camera in my own home because you had been using it without notifying me. Another lapse in stillness. Then I heard my father's voice. Quiet. Thomas says, "We didn't think you'd understand. So you choose not to give me a chance. We assumed you would try to stop it. You were correct." I hung up before they could say anything more. I did not slam the phone. I did not chuck it. I just laid it down on the table's edge and stared at it as if it were someone else's problem. 3 days later, I received a message request on Facebook from someone I hadn't spoken to in over a decade. One of my parents' former pals. Gray hair poetry blog and probably still drinking chamomile tea as if it were a personality. The message was soothing, regretful, and almost too sweet. I didn't realize they didn't have your approval. We were told that you were alert and comfortable. I'm so sorry. If it's useful, this is the webpage they used to organize. There was a connection. No name or logo, simply a clean, private-looking URL. I clicked it. The website looked lovely in that sterile, over-designed way that makes you feel like you're going to join a cult. Muted colors, relaxing typography phrases like freedom through trust, rotating safe zones, and private tailored events. Donations are suggested at $400, $850, and $12, $200. A schedule of events. Each date coincided with one of my professional trips. The locations were barely listed, but I recognized the photographs. One had a wine glass laying on a table that I had polished during lockdown. Another had the carpeting that my mother always said was too simple. They had not borrowed my house. They had featured it. There was a host name Alias. The email address contained my mother's old hippie nickname typed backward. I shut the laptop. Nor in rage, nor even in horror, but in finality. They arrived 4 days later. No text, no warning. Just a knock on the door and the sluggish, tired sound of two individuals pretending not to worry. "You didn't need to escalate it," my mother replied as soon as I opened the door. "We could have dealt with this as a family." "I didn't aggravate anything," I explained. "One of your guests contacted the police. I had no idea this was happening." "But you've told them everything." I spoke the truth. "We were attempting to help your sister," she explained. "She needed help. You said no." "She needed a bigger house," I remarked. "I didn't believe that made her entitled to my." "We couldn't use ours," my father explained. "We are well known around here." "Yours were neutral." "Neutral," I repeated. "Is that what I am now?" "You were gone much of the time." The house sat empty. It wasn't empty, I explained. That was my. They didn't respond. They withdrew with the same silence they had brought with them. The fallout was quiet. It was worse than that. Licensing breaches, zoning complaints, cease and desist from the city, a letter from the IRS inquiring about undisclosed income. One of the attendees sued them for emotional anguish and invasion of privacy. They did not go to jail, but they paid, financial, social, and calm. The website was shut down, the network went dark, and all the friends they used to hang out with stopped returning calls. My sister called next. "I hope you are satisfied." "Excuse me." "They were attempting to assist me, and now Kevin and I must relocate. They can no longer help with the mortgage, so you are blaming me." "You didn't need to go nuclear. You could have protected them." "They exploited my home without permission. They did it for me." "No, they didn't ask." "They did not ask me. They did not ask you, either, did they? That was the end of it. I sold my house. I did not post it. Didn't tell anyone. We hired a real estate agent." I stacked up the evidence. I've signed the papers. The new place is smaller, quieter, and farther away. It smells like fresh paint and nobody else's decisions. I did not leave a key underneath the mat. I did not give anyone a copy. They tried phoning once or twice. No voicemails. I allowed missed calls to go unanswered. They eventually ceased. There was no spectacular conclusion. No last-ditch apologies. Just a silent understanding between people who know that something is finished but don't want to say it out loud. We did not have an argument. We simply quit pretending we were still in orbit. They believed I would protect them. I believed they would protect me. As it turned out, we were both incorrect. So that is what happened. Some individuals claimed I overreacted. Others claimed I let them off too easily. What are your thoughts? Have I gone too far or not far enough? Please let me know in the comments.